can you tell me how you sampled the water? Was it from people's homes?
We drew water samples from the main.
From the main, okay.
Immediately, and they went in for testing, and they're tested for bacteriological contaminants and any other contaminants. Because it's an extensive testing, it takes 24 hours at least to get the results back. And the results came back negative. So, basically, it was a situation where we had to test to make sure it was safe. We don't know if there was any contaminants. The samples we drew had no contaminants in it, but because we can't say that immediately on the spot, we have to issue a do not drink the water order.
Now, they said that they were testing the water, and then they'd figure out what had happened, and obviously they tell you when the water was safe to drink again and use again. Did they come to your home and test the water?
They did not come inside our home and test the water. We received a note. We were out the following day. We actually went to the store to buy a water test kit because we weren't going to take whatever answers they had to give us because they were not very forthcoming to begin with. And when we came home, there was a note posted. This second letter was posted on our door saying that the water was, the order had been lifted and to flush out our entire water heater, all of our faucets to let it run, dump out any ice cubes, anything like that, and kind of reset the system.
So they didn't offer to at least do that for you? The city didn't say, we're going to come in, help you clean out your system?
Not at all.
They never came into your house and tested the water, your water heater?
Not at all.
The sinks, bathtubs? They
Nothing.
Just, a couple of days later after giving you this notice not to drink water, they said you were free to drink water again?
Yeah.
Now, when the city sent you this, what did you learn was the cause?
They didn't give us a cause. They said it was possibly contaminated. So it wasn't even that they were saying that it was contaminated. They said it could be, flush it out just to be on the safe side.
So what they say is that they dealt with the water issue, and that's, old main lines. It's a big concern not only here in Chicago, but all over the country when you're talking about what we saw in Flint, Michigan, for example, with lead main lines starting to leach as a result of, improper treatment of the water that tore off the sidewalls of those lead main lines and ran those into the tap waters. And that's, that's something you can't see and you can't control. You can control up until the point that it gets to the home, and then after that, who knows what happens is what they say.
And will there be testing now that the water appears to be better?
Not unless there's another issue. Basically they're getting the same water that everybody else in Chicago is getting. It's not, the water to their area is not different than the water to the president's house or the mayor's house or my house. It's all the same water.
Okay. But it has nothing to do, there's piping issues. There's so many different things that could...
No, there's no piping issues.
No piping issues. Okay. What are we looking at right here?
So shortly after we moved in, we had all of our pipes replaced with updated to copper. So this is the new main that they put in and new pipes throughout.
So new pipes throughout, new infrastructure, essentially, in this house. What we later learned in our time here in Chicago was that there's some federal laws that changed about 20 years ago that basically made it so that if the pipes are on the property of the house, the pipes are of the responsibility of the owners. Whereas it used to be that those pipes, which were installed by the government, and they could be lead, they could be copper, it doesn't matter. They could be old, they could be hundreds of years old. But in the past 20 years, those pipes, the ownership was transferred to owners of the homes, so that this is why the city now tests the mains rather than the pipes or coming out of the faucet, which, of course, who knows where the contamination could have come from. Could have come from the main, could have come from the pipes that were on that property. For a homeowner to dig up their pipes and replace them, it could cost $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and most homeowners aren't even aware that they own those pipes, and they most likely assume that they are the responsibility of the government. And there's been no further conversation from the city going door to door to see how is the water okay to drink? Does it look okay?
After the day that they sent us the first note saying not to use the water, they called us and asked us how the water was, which seemed very
How does it taste?
strange to me. Like, I'm not sure what the water that we're not supposed to drink, you want me to tell you how that is?
Right.
I'm not sure. And that was the only thing that we had heard from them.
This is before they said it was...
Before they said it was okay.
So, they said that they dealt with the rust issue, but that they needed, a minimum of 24 to 48 hours to test the water to see what, if any, contamination had resulted as, due to what had happened with the car wash, with this backflow issue. I mean, if you think about it, the runoff, the chemicals that could have gotten into the main line, potentially huge issue. And if you really think about it, I mean, how long had that car wash been there? How long had people been consuming this water, drinking this water? I mean, it was a huge scare in the neighborhood.
Now, if the residents, are they able to see this test? Can you provide it, or can you provide it to us if we issue a FOIA?
Well, it's a negative test. I mean, basically it came back negative.
I know, but they might want to see it. Because the other thing is, in other communities, when they do conduct these tests, they usually, and I don't know about how Chicago works, but they'll go into the homes and they'll go from the bathtub, the water main, the water heater. They'll test several homes.
It literally depends on the test and the situation. I mean, in this case, we were testing as close to what we felt was the source as possible. Testing somebody's home down the street is not going to be as close as testing right outside the site where there's a problem.
The site meaning the valve or the
car washes.
Okay.
And we're getting it straight from the main. So if there's obviously getting it from somebody's home is not as good as getting it from the main. If it's in the main, then it's in all of the homes. If you're getting it because.
What if that wasn't the source, though? What if it was something else that was the source?
Sorry, that didn't come through what you said.
What if it wasn't the source? What if it was something else? And
well, I mean, the point is it's not in the main. It's not in the homes.
Okay.
It can't be in the homes and not be in the main, because obviously the homes are getting the water from the source. The source in this case is the water main.
If we wanted to have access to the test, could you provide it to us?
I could. I'd have to ask you for a FOIA.
That's fine. We could do that. Yep. Now, has anybody from the city issued the test results from the water?
Not to me. No.
So you're unaware of whether or not there were contaminants in the water, how long it was contaminated with your consumption, not just the pressure issues, but what was actually in the water.
Absolutely.
You had mentioned that backflow, you had the expectation that there was some soap possibly that would come in. But what are your thoughts on the brown colored water and what could possibly come in from the car wash?
I would assume that if it was soap or whatever was coming from the car wash, that it would be like white or bubbly, look like soap, as opposed to looking like brown. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what that could be. Some rust or
something else from them.
Dirt, yeah.
What have your neighbors told you? What have you learned from them?
Just that, they've all have their families that they're taking care of, that they're serving this who knows what to their children and to their, to themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's really scary to think of.
Yeah, your 3-year-old child.
We bathed him a day before they came and left this note for us, so that's concerning.
There are very clear requirements under the Clean Water Act in terms of the minimum standards that cities and states need to deliver. And there are a whole bunch of triggers that pop up when the water that's being delivered is problematic. The issue that we've seen is that there isn't a cop on the beat. The EPA has not doesn't get the paperwork it's supposed to get. They don't get the reports they're supposed to be getting from the state sometimes. And we need assertive regulators who are going to be watching to ensure that when people flip the tap, they're getting something that is safe and healthy and doesn't introduce problems into our homes and our businesses and our schools. Right now, there isn't as much attention as is needed to this issue from the regulators. Now is the time for them to be watching more closely, not less.
We don't have any way of knowing when a business is operating illegally. They were supposed to be checked before and after.
Who are the inspectors that check to see if the backwater?
They're plumbing inspectors, and the city Department of Buildings, they send them out there. I don't know who they are.
So it's not related to the water department?
No, it's just building inspectors. They tell them, they look at the specs, and they say, you're supposed to have this connection here, you didn't have it.
I mean, the thing is, we're paying for our water, and we trust that it's safe. You know, how come there aren't people regulating this? Why is it that we're paying all this money and, you know, they're giving us whatever may be in it, and that's not right. That's not right for our family. It's not right for anyone's family. This is America. We should be able to trust that our water is clean.
I think in municipalities across the country, I think a lot of people feel that citizens feel that their water is not protected and their government isn't always looking out for their interests, the citizens' interests. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. I think the bottom line is we have an infrastructure issue. That's one thing that's abundantly clear. And the government doesn't know how to respond to the infrastructure issue, whether they privatize it or just ignore the problem because it is so costly that they don't want to be in a position where they could be liable. And it's truly unfortunate if they find other excuses that might be convenient and possibly analogous to the issue that they're facing. So the most unfortunate part of this is that for months, citizens in Chicago, which prides itself in its public services, has gone without potable water. You know, the community that we went to, there were people on that block who were unwilling to talk because they were afraid. They were afraid of retribution. There was a person on the block who works for the government, who knew a lot about what's happening in the water, with the water management that worked in the government, and was unwilling to talk, but off record has been talking to citizens. You know, these are the issues you face when you deal with a large bureaucracy in a city that has been able to take care of its services. When there's a lot of different stories coming from different directions and citizens don't feel like they're feeling like they're being supported and that it's safe to go to their government, that's a problem. So I know this is happening across the country. This is just one more situation, one more example. We don't have all the answers. That is really it comes in the next steps. Might be something that lawyers handle, but bottom line is citizens don't know if their water is safe to drink to this day because the government has not provided them with the tests. And the tests that the government took, were before the water was cleared from the mains. So how long did these citizens go with water that was brown and possibly contaminated? And did that affect the health of their families and most likely their children? And now is that water safe? This is why media is so important and why it's so important for us to dig and try to get to the root of this.